In today's episode, you're going to discover that thing everyone praises as your work ethic, y'all, it's a nervous system that learns survival means productivity. And today I'm giving you the exact practice that interrupts the loop and gives you back your right to stop. All right, y'all, there's 3 reasons I invite you to stay with me all the way through this episode. So here they are. 1, you're going to learn why you literally cannot stop working even when your body is begging you to. 2, you're going to understand why you don't feel like yourself anymore. Why the woman underneath all that competence feels so far away, and what the neuroscience says is actually happening. And 3, I'm going to walk you through a chakra somatic practice that I call the pause protocol, and it interrupts that compulsive work loop. Okay, so stay until the end, because at the end, I've got 3 truths waiting for you, and I want you to carry this into your week. So stay with me all the way today. So I want to stay for a moment with the woman who found this episode, not because they're tired, not sleepy tired, not hollow, but hollow tired. The kind that doesn't lift on Sunday morning. The kind that a good night's sleep does not even start to touch. And girl, if that's you, you're exactly where you need to be. So pour yourself something warm and let's take this half hour together. Just being you. No goal in sight. Just be you. Because today we're talking about what gets called workaholism. And let me tell you right up front that what it is not. It is not a moral failing. It is not a selfishness in a trench coat. It is not something wrong with you. What we call workaholism in women healers over 50 is a nervous system that has been trained by decades of impossible caseloads, impossible demands, by a system that ran on your depletion, by a culture that measured your worth in what you gave. To believe that the moment you stop, something terrible would happen. Your nervous system didn't make that up. It learned it. One shift at a time, one class at a time, one big called on the carpet at a time, one crisis at a time. One I'll rest when this is handled at a time. And today, girl, we are going to start unlearning that. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer really honestly because nobody's watching. When was the last time you sat down, not to rest so you could work better later, not to take a 20-minute recovery break so you could perform, but just to be? Not productive, not useful, not catching up on one single thing. Just a woman alive in her body, present. If that question makes you just a wee bit anxious, if your brain immediately started cataloging everything you should be doing instead of sitting still, that is not laziness, my friend. That is data. And it points to something very specific happening inside your nervous system. So, as we like to do on the podcast, let's look at the science and the research. And we're going to start with Dr. Judson Brewer. And he's a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist at Brown University. And he spent his entire career studying how habit loops form and where they live in the brain. His research centers on a structure called the posterior cingulate cortex, which we've explored here on the show. And it's that structure is the hub of what we call, y'all are going to say it for me, default mode network. That's right. Now, Brewer's neuroimaging work shows something remarkable. This region lights up when we're caught up in craving, in rumination, in getting swept up in self-referential loops. And it quiets down when we step out of the loop into direct, present moment experience. A habit loop in Brewer's model is beautifully simple. How great is that? Because so much what we do is not. So there's just three parts, y'all. There's the trigger, which I like to call the activation, but he calls it the trigger. There's the behavior, and there's the reward. So let me put your life into that frame. You sit down. The dread of stillness rises up. That is the trigger, activation. You pick the work back up. That's the behavior. The dread temporarily eases. That's the reward. And every single time you run that loop, you got it, you strengthen that loop. And you do it for 25, 20, 30, 35 years inside a system that applauded you the whole time. Your brain craves, well, it craves, but it also carves a groove so deep the behavior fires before you're even aware you chose it. Because, see, you didn't choose it. You didn't choose it, rather. The loop chose it. So, see, this, sweet soul, is why willpower has never fixed this for you. See, you cannot out-discipline a survival circuit. The women who come to me saying, I just need to be more disciplined about boundaries, are trying to solve a neurological problem with a moral solution, and then blaming themselves when it doesn't hold. It was never going to hold. That's not a flaw in your character. That is the architecture of the loop, doing exactly what loops do. Okay, I want to add a second layer because this next piece explains something even more painful than the compulsion itself. It explains why you don't feel like yourself anymore. I have had so many women come to me and say that. And here is an explanation. Dr. Norman Farb at the University of Toronto identified two distinct modes of self-expression in the brain. And his imaging studies show these modes are neurologically separable. The first is what he calls the narrative mode, the running story of who you are, what you've done, what's still undone, what people need from you next. The second mode is the experiential one, the direct, felt, present moment sense of being a body alive right now, the warmth of a mug in your hands, the sensation of your feet on the floor, the simple fact of being here. And here's what Farb's research reveals. Chronic stress collapses us into the narrative mode almost exclusively. Hear that again. Chronic stress collapses us into the narrative mode almost exclusively. And I need you to really sit with that and what it means for you. When you've spent decades in overdrive, you don't just lose your rest, you lose access to the experiential channel entirely. You become a story about a productive woman rather than having an experience as a woman. I call this the floating head of competence. Y'all have heard me talk about that before. Y'all are brilliant, capable, relentlessly producing, endlessly reliable, and completely, heartbreakingly disconnected from the woman underneath. If you have ever looked around at a life you built with your own two hands and felt like a stranger inside of it, if you've caught your reflection and thought, who the hell is that? Where did she go? This is why. You did not lose yourself through weakness. Your brain, under chronic load, simply stopped allocating resources to the felt sense of being you. It couldn't afford it. Survival came first. It always does. And here's the part the systems we work in never told us, because those systems needed you not to know it. This is reversible. Brewer's own research shows that these loops can be interrupted and rewired, not through force, but through awareness and direct experience. Farb's work shows the experiential mode can be strengthened, brought back online like a muscle that's been idle. Your brain, sweet soul, is not broken. It has been running a program it was handed. And as y'all well know, and have probably done it, programs can be rewritten. The system praised your compulsion and called it commitment. It pathologized your rest and called it laziness. It took your brilliant, adaptive, survival-oriented nervous system and trained it to believe your worth ended where your productivity did. Girl, that was a lie. A beautifully packaged, completely devastating lie. And today, we are putting it down. We're unpacking that. See, in chakra psychology, the energy center governing our personal power, our will, our identity, and agency is our solar plexus, right here under our chest. Ancient tradition, which calls it Manipura, translates roughly as the city of jewels. It sits at your navel center, and it is the seat of your authentic I am. Not I do, not I produce, not I give and give and give. Just I am. This is the chakra of sovereignty. So, it's very important that we embrace the sovereignty. So this, my friend, is the pairing I want you to hold on to. Because it's the heart of this whole episode. And that is the solar plexus right here and your default mode network. That's the pairing. They're telling the same story in two languages. When your solar plexus is chronically overactivated, which ours have been for years, when it's been co-opted by a system that harnessed your personal power for its own needs, it does not feel like power. It feels like compulsion. It feels like the inability to rest. It feels like an identity that has fused so completely with productivity that the moment you are not doing something, a low, gnawing dread rises up that you can't quite name. Kind of a free-floating dread. So neurologically, that dread is your posterior cingulate cortex firing up the loop. That trigger, behavior, reward. A dysregulated solar plexus and a hijacked default mode network are not two separate problems. They are one phenomenon. Identity fused to output. Sovereignty traded for survival. Described once in the language of the body's energy centers and once in the language of neural networks. And I find that enormously hopeful. Because, see, it means the way back is also one path. You don't have to fix your brain and then separately tend your energy. You interrupt the loop in the body and you interrupt the loop in the brain. Restore the solar plexus and the default mode network follows. One practice, one doorway. That's what I'm going to give you right now. And I want to be very clear about something before we begin. This is not a breathing exercise. This is a full somatic chakra circuit interrupt, and it works through 3 integrated mechanisms. The first is warmth and pressure at the navel center, which activates the mechanoreceptors and the thermoreceptors in the abdominal fascia. The second is a gentle downshift out of sympathetic dominance, out of that go, 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 and into the parasympathetic regulation. And the third, the one that does the deepest work, is a directed, attentional shift, moving you in real time out of Farb's narrative mode and into experiential mode. Out of the story and back into that beautiful body of yours. So if you're driving right now or doing anything that needs your eyes and hands, save this for later and come back to it. I'll be right here waiting for you. Girl, this deserves your full presence. Okay, let's begin. So I want you to find somewhere you can sit or stand with your feet flat on the floor. If you'll notice, if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm standing up today to do this. It was very important for me to feel grounded as I walked y'all through this and to be grounded and present with you. But find somewhere you can sit or stand with your feet flat on the ground. Feel the ground underneath you just for a moment. You don't have to do anything with it. Just notice it's there, holding you up. Girl, the way it always has. Now rub your palms together until they're warm. Really generate some heat with them. I want you to feel that friction. And when they're warm, stack both palms over one another, directly over your navel, that solar plexus center. Press gently but firmly. You want to feel held. See, you're not performing a technique here. Sweet soul, you're arriving. How cool is that? You are arriving. Maybe for the first time all day. And that warmth matters. And here's the physiology. Dr. Tiffany Field at the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami documented that sustained, gentle pressure on the abdomen activates the vagus nerve and measurably reduces cortisol levels within minutes. It's not a metaphor. This is not woo, my friend. This is your body's own regulatory wiring. And you're pressing the button on purpose. With your palms warm against your belly, take one breath, not a big, deep, effortful breath. I'm not asking you to do breathing, just one ordinary, unremarkable breath. Let your belly rise into your hands and let it fall. That's all. And now I want you to say out loud, if you possibly can, silently, only if you must, the following words. I am not what I produce. Say it again. I am not what I produce. And one more time, and let it land this time. I am not what I produce. Here's what may be happening. You may feel resistance rise up. A voice that says, but you are what you produce. Look at everything that's still undone. My God, look at who's counting on you. I want you to notice that voice, and I want you to understand what it is. Girl, that voice is not your wisdom. That is your loop running its old trigger activation. That is the posterior cingulate lighting up, trying to pull you back into the groove. You don't have to argue with it. You don't have to win against it. You just keep your warm hands on your center, and you let the words be true for this one single moment. I am not what I produce. Now, and this is the most important part of the entire protocol, so stay with me. I want you to ask your solar plexus one question, just one. Not your head, not your to-do list, not the part of you that manages everyone. Your body, your navel center. You ask it gently, what do I need right now that has nothing to do with work? And then wait. You don't push for an answer. You don't perform an answer. You don't reach for the right one. Just wait with warmth, with your hands on the city of jewels, and let something on its own rise. What comes is your answer. It might be water. It might be silence. It could be rest. It might be a name, someone you miss, someone you haven't had the space to think about in months. It might be something that surprises you, or something that makes your throat tighten and your eyes sting. Whatever it is, do not judge it. Do not fix it. Approach it with curiosity and self-compassion. Because, see, that is your solar plexus speaking its own language from underneath the compulsion. That is your city of jewels, remembering it is made of something other than output. Stay here for 3 to 5 minutes when you do this on your own. And do it especially when the urge to return to work feels physical, because it often does. Right? Especially in the evenings, especially on the weekends, especially in those first raw weeks when you start giving yourself permission to stop. Every single time you interrupt the compulsive loop, with warmth, presence, and truth, you're teaching your predictive brain a brand new prediction. Stillness is safe. I am safe. I'm enough right now, having done nothing at all. So let's take one more breath here together before we move to close. Hands warm, belly soft, feet on floor. Wonderful. Gently let your hands come to rest. Okay, y'all. Before we close, I want to say something directly to you. The drive that lives inside you, the fierce, devoted, burning commitment you have brought to your work for all these years, that is not the problem. And please hear me, the drive is gorgeous. It has probably saved lives, helped people thrive. It has definitely changed them. The question was never if you cared or not. The question is if anyone ever gave you permission to exist as something more than the sum of what you give. You have been living inside a system that needed you to keep pouring. It praised your compulsion and called it commitment. It pathologized your rest and called it laziness. Jesus. It took your brilliant adaptive nervous system and trained it, one shift at a time, to believe that your worth ended where your productivity did. And now, that training runs automatically, like a track on a loop, in the very brain that is supposed to be your home. But that training, girl, it can be undone. Every time you bring your hands to your solar plexus and tell the truth, I am not what I produce, you're writing a new line of code into your nervous system. Slowly, repetitively, lovingly, you're reclaiming the city of jewels, one pause at a time. So here are the 3 truths I want you to carry with you from this episode. Truth number 1, your compulsive work pattern is not ambition. It is a habit loop, trigger, behavior, reward, carved into your default mode network by a system that profited from it. It is intelligent, it is adaptive, it is no longer serving you. Truth number 2, you did not lose yourself through weakness. Chronic stress collapsed you into a story about a productive woman and cut you off from the felt experience of being alive. The floating head of competence is not who you are. She is what survival made. And the woman underneath, girl, she is still there, waiting to be felt again. And truth number 3, your solar plexus sovereignty, your right to exist no matter what, to matter, to be without producing, is not something you earn. It was girl, it was yours before you ever helped a single person. And reclaiming it is not selfish. It is the most radical, loving, necessary thing you can do for yourself and every single person in your care. So take the pause protocol into your week. Do it once, just once. See what your body tells you when you finally stop long enough to ask. And sweet soul, just one more thing. Just between us, before I let you go, if you notice somewhere in this conversation that it's not only your rest that went underground, that your aliveness, your softness, maybe even your desire got quietly shelved right alongside it, I want you to know I have another show called Sexy After 50, and over there, that's exactly what we tend to. It's waiting for you whenever you're ready. So until next time, I'm Dr. Julie Merriman, reminding you, you were never just what you gave. You are so much more than that. I need you to please take good care of your gorgeous self, and I'll see you next time.